Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to this day 2 of the A4Q Congress, second edition. My name is Debbie Archer, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have with me Leanne Howard. Leanne is from Planet Testing. She's also a member of the Australian New Zealand Testing Board, ANZTB, and a very active member of IS2QB working groups. Leanne's topic today is defects, derail, delivery, and I'm going to hand over to her to crack on with her presentation. Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks, Debbie, and good day to everyone wherever you are in the world, from a lovely sunny Australia, 23 degrees here, just so you get a bit of presentation envy. I'm going to be talking about defects, derailing, delivery. I think that's quite an emotive topic for all of us testers and test engineers, because I'm sure everyone that's listening to the presentation has been affected in some way by the numbers or severity of defects and how it's impacted your delivery and obviously your customers' delivery. Now, there's lots of different other things that can derail your delivery, but I think defects are one of the major derailers. So I've selected that one to have a chat to you about today. If anyone has any questions as I'm going through, please drop them in the chat and I'll leave some time at the end to cover them. So what are the three things that I'm going to be covering? The first thing is, what is the actual root cause of defects? Second thing is, what are the effects of those defects? And the third thing is, and the part that I'm actually going to spend the most amount of time on, is what can we actually do about it? Because we as testers don't actually create defects, certainly not in the software, but we actually can create defects in our test assets. So we may have defects in our test cases, in our automation scripts, or even in our test assets, in our test plan or test completion reports. So we're not immune from creating defects ourselves as testers, but predominantly we're on the receiving end of those defects and having to take some action to hopefully bring our delivery back on track. So my focus and my mission for you as testers, quality engineers, product managers, everyone involved in delivery, our mission is to eliminate defects and take the time that we are spending on finding those defects and really focus on customer excellence. Because at the end of the day, we only have one chance to make the right impression first time. So we really need to understand what customer excellence means to either our end users, maybe our internal customers. And as I said, for products and for documentation, our customers might be our project team. So let's swap the main focus of testers that think their job is to find defects, unfortunately often late in the delivery. Let's switch our focus and let's say we're actually going to prevent those defects. And therefore what we're doing when we're doing our execution is we are actually providing confidence to the project, the delivery team, to our customers, to our organization, that we are delivering that customer excellence. So what does focus on the customer mean? And it can mean lots of different things to lots of different people. Obviously, we have a multitude of customers, and what one person considers as value to them may not be value to another customer, or maybe a slightly less value or more value. And also we need to be thinking about, who are our customers? We might be delivering something, but it's going to a multitude of different customers. Also, quality is subjective. So what is quality for one customer may not be quality for another. So we need to make sure that we are keeping that lens, if you like, or the microscope on our customer and what is the value and excellence that they are expecting. And it could be a pleasant path through our software or the product that we are delivering. It may be that they have certain requirements that they need. Maybe we need to make the path an accessible path. So we need to make sure that we are understanding what our customers need and really focusing on that delivery. And defects are one thing that deviate us from that focus on the customer. So that's why I want to talk with you about how we identify some root causes, what the impact is on our customer, and how we as testers, quality engineers, members of a delivery team can actually take action to eliminate those defects, or at least minimize them or shift the defect finding to the left. So the earlier that we can find defects and can rectify them, the less impact it's going to have. So let's explore where defects might come from. So we need a definition. If we've got a mission, we need to understand what it is that we are looking for and what is the definition of a defect. So I've taken the ISTQB definition, and it's an imperfection or deficiency in a work product where it does not meet its requirements or specifications. Now, a work product can be, as I've alluded to, a document. It could be a system. It could be some hardware. It could even be a business process that you are delivering to your customers, or a change to business process. So we need to make sure that we are looking at all of our work products and ensuring that they meet those requirements or any specifications that we have. Ideally with input from our actual customers. So what are some of those root causes that we look at, or we can look at? I've selected a rather lovely bug, if you like, in the center circle. So that's signifying our defects. What are the root causes of our defects? And often defects don't come in such lovely colors or shapes as this little bug that I've got there. And they're absolutely things that we do not want in our delivery. So starting from the top and going around clockwise, we might introduce defects, and I can pretty much guarantee that we will introduce defects actually at the first stage, at our requirements gathering and requirements specifications. And that could be a misunderstanding of what our customer wants. It could be that we haven't clearly articulated what the requirement is. We might have thought we've articulated it well, but actually, as the product owner, I specify the requirements, and I actually have something very specific in mind when I specify what those requirements are. But by the time it comes to the tester or the development person or the solution architect for the design, they're reading my words and maybe they have a slightly different interpretation. So we want to make sure that when we are writing our requirements, that we are trying to remove those ambiguities. And we as testers are really good at asking those types of questions. Why do you want to do this? What happens if this happens, as example? The next place where defects may be introduced is in design. And if we've got a defect in our requirement and then we build the design on top of that requirement, we're probably enlarging the overall impact of the defect and creating more defects that need to be found. So again, look at how the testers and the quality engineers can be involved in those discussions around design. And nowadays, the modern tester or quality engineer has a very in-depth knowledge of technology and systems and how they all hang together. So they are valuable contributors to talking about the design. Also, as we said right at the beginning, they have a very strong focus on the customer, and we need to make sure that that's being implemented in the design as well. We might have defects in our environment, and that could be we've got incorrect versions of our software. It could be that we are not integrated in the way that we thought we were going to be integrated. It could be that if we are working in a system of systems, for example, that one system is sending a certain format or a certain set of data, and the receiving system is expecting something else. We also have defects, obviously, in our product. So that could be through coding defects, it could be configuration defects, and as I've said, it might be integration issues that we have. And we also need to think back to the product risk, making sure that we understand what the product risks are that feed into the requirements. So we might even introduce defects earlier than the requirements if we're actually trying to solve or provide a solution for the wrong product risk. The next one is time. Often we find in our projects that we are, or in our delivery, we are challenged for time. And when we have time constraints, that's when people can rush to get things finished or can deliver something that is not the optimal solution. And finally, people. We're all human beings and people make mistakes. So defects can be introduced through a simple mistake, or it could be that the people maybe don't necessarily have the right skill set to be able to recognize that they've put a defect into our system or our work product. So there are other root causes for defects, but those are some of the major ones that I see working with lots of teams and across hundreds of projects. But I'm sure you can think of some more. And if you can, please put them in the chat. So what does that mean if we've got those defects? I'm going to loop back to it's all about the customer excellence. So it's going to have an impact on your customer. What we want is this first picture here that I'm showing you. We want to be able to provide the product that satisfies our customer needs. And not only satisfies them and gives them value, but we actually want to delight our customers. We want our customers to be talking to their friends and posting on social media and really doing the advertisement for our product themselves. That's what we really want to get to. We want the customer jumping for joy on the product that we have delivered. So what happens if that is not true? We don't have our customer delighted? Well, there's some key impacts to our customer. If we have lots of defects that we don't deal with, it could be that our delivery overruns and we actually deliver our product at the wrong time. So this is a bit of an extreme example. Our customer that you can see has got his hands in his hair is wanting something for the winter. In this case, it's ski equipment. But we've actually delivered our product in the summer. So the product is of no use to him at all. So we need to ensure that defects that are impacting on our timelines and delivering when the requirement is there from our customers, that we bear that in mind. Another example of this is if you have a regulatory requirement, for example. So if is a new law that is going to be coming into place, we need to make sure that we are delivering our product in time for that law to be enacted, so that we don't potentially get sued or it impacts our organizational brand. We also need to think about other time factors that could influence what we are delivering. So another example could be our competitors have launched a similar product to us, but they delivered ahead of us. So they are going to start to take the market share. Maybe the new customers that you were expecting to come on board are actually now going to be the new customers of your competitor. Or even worse, maybe you're going to lose your customers to your competitor. So when we're building something and delivering something, time is a factor, and defects are a detractor from you being able to deliver on time. The other thing dear to quality engineers and testers is obviously the wrong quality. So if I deliver something to the customer, or we as a team deliver something to the customer and it's broken, then our customer is not going to be able to use our services or our products. And even more, is going to be frustrated and probably again move to one of our competitors. And it is again potentially going to impact our brand damage. So we need to make sure that not only are we delivering to time, but we're also delivering to the right level of quality. And as I said right at the beginning, quality is subjective. So we really need to do some things to make sure we understand the quality that our customers are expecting. The next thing is we've actually given them the wrong product. So we were expecting some downhill skis, but we've actually delivered rollerblades to our customers. So that's not going to satisfy their requirements. And often this happens right back at those requirements. We actually specified the wrong requirement to mitigate the product risk that we were trying to mitigate. And we've ended up either through requirements or through design, or even possibly through code and configuration, giving our customer the wrong product. So again, if you give them the wrong product, they're not going to buy your services. And they're going to go and find some other organization that's going to give them the product that they want. And finally, maybe that we've given them the product, but it's at the wrong price. So this is twofold. The price may be driven by the fact that our delivery took so long and cost so much that in the end, we need to put our prices up. And maybe our customers don't think the value is in the product based on the price that you're charging. And the other flip side from the organization is that you probably have not achieved your return on investment. So all of these 4 things in combination not only impact your customer and don't provide customer excellence, but they also have knock-on impacts to your organization. So we need to make sure that we are really finding these defects as soon as we can, or even trying to stop defects happening, because it has severe consequences on your delivery. So this is what I really want to focus in. That's a little bit of background. What are root causes of our defects and how does it impact our customer? And it could be our end customer, it could be an internal customer, it could be part of your delivery team as your customer. So let's focus the conversation on how we can actually prevent defects and not detect defects, because that's where we really want to get to. We want to be able to prevent those defects from even happening. So we as testers and quality engineers need to change our mindset. We need to become a quality assistance for our teams. We need to be right at the beginning of the project. We need to be involved, because this is part of the value that we as quality engineers and test professionals bring to the delivery. We have that mindset. We focus on the customer. We are really good at asking those what if, or but if I do this types of questions that the rest of the team may not be considering. So we really need to change our mindset, as I said, to defect prevention and not defect detection, so that we can then provide that confidence to our organization, to our delivery team, and ultimately that customer excellence. So defect detection, again, I've just picked a few examples here. There are lots more, and I'm more than happy to talk about any other ones or these ones in more depth offline, and I'll give you my contact details in a bit. Obviously, if you've got some ideas around defect prevention that are not the ones I've covered in my presentation, again, please post them into the chat. So early static testing, as I said right at the beginning, the requirements are an area where defects can be introduced. So let's start right at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of that delivery cycle and do some static testing. So work with the documentation that is being produced, or maybe it's even some wireframes, or someone just draws something up on a whiteboard. And let's just do those walkthroughs. Think about some examples that we can play through those requirements so that we tease out the exact requirement, that the requirement is testable, and everyone on the delivery team has the same understanding of what that requirement is. So if you're using user stories, for example, that we understand what the story is telling us, we understand the exact customer that we're delivering it to them, we understand the reason why we're delivering it to them, and we also understand what the acceptance criteria are. We can also help in the planning. So remember what I said, one of the root causes is time. So we need to make sure that we're planning correctly, so we do leave the right amount of time to provide all of the steps within our delivery chain, and that is not causing our defects. Another technique that I have found incredibly successful is pairing. And you can pair any combination of your delivery team. Even think about maybe pairing with your end customers. And that pairing allows you to have that discussion, to view things through a slightly different lens, if you like. And also that if I'm building something and I have an observer looking at what I'm building, then they may spot a defect as I'm typing, as I'm building my code, as I'm creating my automation script, and they're finding that defect right away. So again, we're looking for that fast feedback loop, and pairing is a great way to do that. And as I said, you can pair developers with developers, developers with testers, BAs with testers, any combination you can think of. And it's also a good idea if you're swapping around those pairings. So the overarching thing that we need to do from a defect prevention side is to build that quality in. We do not test quality out of a product. It's already there. We need to build that quality in. We find the quality issues in the form of defects, but we as testers and quality engineers are not actually building anything other than if you exclude the assets that I talked about, the test assets. But in the main, we are not building anything. So we need to work with everyone in our delivery team to ensure that we're building that quality in right from the beginning. We're making sure that we are building testability into our products. And that's the next bullet point there. We need to be thinking about testing all of the time. And we need to get everyone on our delivery team to be thinking about testing all of the time. So working with the developers to say, well, how are you going to test that? How is that going to work? What tests do I need to run? And back to the impact on the time, if we can have the conversation about testability and who is going to test what, then we're not going to have that duplication. And we're also going to understand that this set of tests is targeted for finding a certain type of defects. So unit testing, for example, is going to find those more technical defects, the defects at the component level. Whereas if we're doing user acceptance testing or any kind of acceptance testing, we're really looking at the business process or the way the customer is going to interact with your product. So we're looking for different defects. So we need to make sure, again, we do that quality assistance so that the right people are doing the right testing to find the right defects. We can also provide defect taxonomies. Now, there's lots of different defect taxonomies that you can find on the internet, but why not try creating your own? You can create your own taxonomy based on your system and the areas where there are likely to be defects. So you can build this based on your existing defect management tool, looking at where the most defects are found in, maybe in systems, maybe in areas of the systems, maybe in paths through your systems. And you can create your own defect taxonomy, which you can then share with all of the rest of the teams, because we all know that where there's one defect, there's likely to be multiple defects. So we have that defect clustering effect. So make sure that you are learning from the rich information and data that you've already gathered as part of previous projects and delivery within your organization. Another technique that we can use is around swarming. So let's all work together to ensure that we don't have too much work in progress. And if we are running tests and we run a test and it's blocked because it's a defect, we start another test and it's blocked because of a defect, or we do a test step in a test and we're blocked, that is creating a lot of work in progress. And we want to be eliminating or reducing that work in progress, because again, that's waste, that's adding to time, that's adding to cost. So let's all swarm together and work together in order to find out why we've got that defect, what is the root cause of that defect, what do we need to do in order to fix that defect. So rather than testers starting new tests and developers starting new development, let's swarm on what we know about our product right now, that we know it's not functioning as we expect, or it's not meeting the requirements. And let's all work together to solve that problem before we go on to the next area. Because you want to be reducing that work in progress, because having 10 items that are part way through is not providing that customer excellence, but rather let's take one area of your system or one user story and make sure that that's excellent and ready to be deployed to your customer. And then let's work on the next one. And the other area, it has lots of different names: Pathfinder, Incident Room, War Room. And this can be used for a number of different things. It can be used where you have already identified defects, and maybe you have a problem with defect aging. So your defects are taking a long time to get turned around. Maybe you're working in a complex environment where you have multiple different third parties integrating together, and the defect is bouncing from one team to the next team to the next team, and we're never getting to the root cause, and we're never getting to a solution. So you can use that technique of the Pathfinder, get everyone in a room virtually at the moment in some areas in the world, but get everyone in the room together, walk through. Maybe it's a complex integration. So walk through that integration step by step. Get the person that is doing the action right now to be talking about what it is they're doing. Why are they doing it like this? Sharing, if it's an API, talking about what is the API? What am I trying to achieve? What data is being transferred? Is the data being changed, deleted, added to? And walk through step by step, and you will find that that type of technique does allow you to kind of think about the root cause of the defect and provide a solution much quicker. Talking about defect prevention, let's start that much earlier in the process. Let's not wait until we've got a defect. Let's actually use that sort of Pathfinder incident room to walk through paths in our solution. And that path may be driven by technical complexity. We know there is some complexity within this particular area of the system, or there are multiple systems integrated together. Or we can look at it from the customer perspective to say, what is the path that the majority of our customers are going to use in our product? Or what is the business process that we are trying to achieve? So that Pathfinder can be used for multiple different reasons. It can be part of your defect triage solution, and it can be part of the gaining confidence in your delivery, and again, identifying those areas of defects much quicker. And you can use any combination of these different ways of thinking about your prevention, and mix and match and use different ones. See what works for your organization. So us as testers and quality engineers are key to this defect prevention, and we need to provide quality assistance to the rest of our team. We need to be there at the beginning of our delivery where we can offer the maximum value by preventing the defects rather than finding the defects. So a slightly different mindset that we need to adopt. This is the Agile continuum that I presented at the conference, at the previous conference at the beginning of the year. And I'm not going to go into all of these, but I just wanted to highlight a few that are particularly relevant for the defect discussion that I'm talking about. And those are highlighted in yellow. So identify and explore product risk. I can't stress enough that the delivery should be focused on the product risks that we are trying to mitigate by delivering our product. So we absolutely need to make sure there is not any defect in our assumptions or descriptions of the product risk that we're trying to mitigate. So that's taking it that one step further back or further left, even before we start talking about our requirements. So make sure you understand those product risk drivers. Testing in parallel with coding. That's pretty much the mindset and where you need to get to if you're working in an agile delivery model. But the number of organizations that I work with that say they are agile or doing agile delivery, and they deliver all of the code or the config in sprint 1, but testing doesn't actually get involved till sprint 2, and then automation doesn't happen until sprint 3. So we're already behind, and we've lost that opportunity to provide that quick feedback, fast feedback loop. So we need to think about how we're going to organize our teams, that we are testing in parallel with coding, and that we deliver smaller chunks of our overall solution so that it can be tested. And that links back to what I was talking about earlier. You know, the modern tester does need to have a lot more technical skills, because they need to understand the architecture. They need to understand how things are coded, so they can start having those conversations and start testing things without having the full path through the solution. And also, they need those skills for the test automation. So we want to, again, be shifting that left so that we are creating those automation packs so that we have our regression packs ready to deliver as soon as we start our testing and the developers are delivering code. And the last one, just to highlight out of the Agile continuum, is remove obstacles and distractors to testing. Remember back to that root cause. One of the key impacts on delivery is test environments. And not only the defects that we find in our test environments, which is part of this presentation, but not having our environment set up on time, not having our requirements meet our environments meeting our requirements. In some organizations I work with, they haven't even specified the requirements for the environment, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. So make sure that you are removing those types of obstacles and detractors, so that it gives you as the testers time to invest in giving that confidence to your customer and ensuring we've got that customer excellence. So I'm just wanting to conclude, and I'm sure this is true of a lot of you that are watching this presentation. Testing is very often called out as the bottleneck. It's often, particularly towards the end of the sprint or the release cycle, or depending on what type of methodology you're using, testing will suddenly become part of the critical path, and all spotlight on testing. As I said right at the beginning, that it's not the testers in the main that introduce the defects. That's happening upstream in our delivery, and we are a part of ensuring that that doesn't happen. But actually, in most projects, I would like to say to any project managers that's watching this presentation, can you please put an extra activity or step on your Gantt chart or your project plan to say delivery complete? And by that, I mean not only the original delivery, but actually the delivery of the defects that have been fixed. And very soon the conversation switches, because it's not testing that's a bottleneck or on the critical path. It's actually that step on your Gantt chart or line on your Gantt chart that is talking about delivery complete. That's the part that is the critical path. And that will then help you as testers and quality engineers to be highlighting that we need support if you're not getting it, and we need the delivery manager or the third parties to actually deliver the defects that then give us a clean run on our testing that can provide confidence to our customer and give that customer excellence. So we are not the bottlenecks, is my message. So to sum up, let's start turning detection of defects into prevention. It's going to speed up your project. It's going to make your project cost less. It's going to ensure that we give that customer excellence, and that we are doing that in a way that meets our ROI. And at the end of the day, everyone gets frustrated with defects. Testers do, developers do, the project manager does, or the product owner. So let's change our mindset from prevent or from detecting defects to preventing them and providing confidence in the product that we are delivering. So if anyone would like to contact me, as I said, I love talking about this topic and any other topics around Agile and testing. So here's my details for you to contact me. Please reach out. And back over to you, Debbie, and hopefully we've got some really interesting questions.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Leanne. It's always really thought-provoking. You know, we talk about delighting customers and customer excellence as part of our mission statements and in what we do. But I think as managers especially, we don't often take time out to really examine what that means and through the different levels. So I found that really thought-provoking, that you picked it apart a little bit and put a lot of context about it for quality engineering testing. So thank you for that. Here's a question coming up. Let me just let the banner go along so I can read it. Which root cause do you think has the biggest impact on numbers of defects?
Oh, brilliant question. Excellent. So I would say probably, and I'd love to have some debate. So if you don't agree with this, then please post into the comments chat. I actually think the biggest impact on the number of defects is actually right at the beginning. Because if you get your product risk wrong, or your requirements wrong, then that has a huge knock-on impact to your design, because you've started, if you like, with the building blocks of it being wrong and shaky, and you're building on top of that, which is going to make your product even more shaky. And potentially you're going to have exponential growth of your defects. So one defect in requirements could be 4 defects in design, and each one of those design defects is 5 defects in coding or configuration or delivery. So that one defect has an exponential knock-on impact. So the root cause, going back to that root cause, and I'm really interested because a lot of organizations don't go back and study what the root cause of the defects are, and it can give you a huge amount of information. And often what happens is the defect will be actually designated as a code defect, when in fact it's actually not. It's a defect in the requirements, or a misunderstanding, or an ambiguity. So, you know, I would encourage people in your defect triage, in your defect tool, that you are capturing this root cause analysis information, because it gives you a huge amount of benefit. And as I said, that can feed into your defect taxonomy, which helps you to identify defects much earlier. So I'm going to plump for requirements is going to be the biggest bang for your buck and the biggest number of defects, even if they're not visible as requirements defects.
Thank you, Leanne. Leanne, we've come to the end. We've run out of time. We've got,
no.
I'm so sorry. We could carry on here for another half hour. I'm absolutely sure of it. But you know what the answer is? You're going to have to come back again.
I'm more than happy to do that. Love to come back. And also I'm really keen to answer any of the questions that people have posted through social media. So if you can pass those on to me, or people can reach out to me, then more than happy to carry on the conversation, and share, you know, some techniques to help people get over those large numbers of defects that we get in product delivery.
It's lovely. And what we'll do, we'll have this recording available too, so people can watch through again, because that was just packed of ideas and suggestions and really fabulous input. So Leanne, it's always such a pleasure, and thank you so much, and we'll chat soon. Take good care.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Congratulations and good luck to the rest of the presenters for today.
Thank you. Stay tuned, everyone. Bye.
Bye.